In early 2021, Jagex proposed the first ever major combat equipment rebalance. Items like the Black D hide, the Toxic Blowpipe, Twisted Bow, and even a bunch of other weapons had their stats adjusted, their requirements changed, and other general nerfs and buffs happened. This is not the first time Jagex has looked at nerfing or adjusting some combat equipment, as older players will remember when they nerfed Void from the absurd 20% plus bonus that it used to have. But it was the first time that Jagex really went into detail on what they wanted the combat balance to be and adjusting existing equipment instead of just adding new things. In 2023, I think it's time for another one, and this time the main focus should be melee weapons. The Osmumten's Fang is one of the strongest melee weapons, and to the point that it's become almost too strong. It has two styles, slash and stab, both of which can take advantage of its customary double accuracy roll, basically invalidating a lot of the high defense monsters that we have because it can blow right past them. I would propose taking this weapon down so that only the stab feature works with the double accuracy roll. Basically what this would do is ensure that the weapon leaves space for other strong weapons in slash, while keeping its identity as something that can blow right through your defenses as long as it's not particularly resistant to stab. I think this is needed because the Fang reminds me a lot of the Blowpipe from the original equipment rebalancing. It's a mid-level weapon that's particularly easy to get and excels almost everywhere. And not only that, it makes the weapons that are also in the similar niche borderline pointless to use. One of the reasons the Blowpipe was nerfed is that there was really no reason to use crossbows, longbows, even the Dragon Hunter crossbow, or anything else other than the Twisted Bow. In fact, even the Twisted Bow was only a little bit above the Blowpipe. Pretty much you just can use the Blowpipe everywhere. It's not problematic, it's very good, and if you really have a lot of money you can shell out for the Twisted Bow, but you don't need it. That's kind of where the Fang is now. You can Fang almost everything in the game. And sure, if you have a lot of money, you can shell out for the Scythe, and it's marginally better in some places. But ultimately, the Fang is just too good because you can use it everywhere, and it's good at everything, leaving almost no space for other weapons. The Scythe is the biggest victim of the Fang's dominance, and a Fang nerf would definitely help the Scythe, but I think that it could use a little attention on its own. Most people agree that it's a bit too expensive to use and a bit too underwhelming compared to the other two mega rare weapons. One thing that I think would really help the Scythe is a boost to accuracy. Now, the boost to accuracy obviously will come with increased DPS, so I think that there needs to be some kind of balance in the way that you're not just totally increasing the accuracy, doubling it, and making Scythe double DPS, because that would be a bit extreme. So what I think should happen is I think there should be a boost to accuracy on the second hit and a further boost on the third hit. This meaning that the main hit, the first hit, which does approximately, I think, maybe a little like half the damage or a bit more, would be normal accuracy. Then the second hit would be plus 50% accuracy. So you're 50% more likely to hit with the second hit, meaning most of the time you'll hit with the second hit. That being the hit that's half damage. And then furthermore, there's another hit, the third hit, which would be plus 75% accuracy. So basically saying that you're most likely going to hit with the second hit, 50% damage, and you're almost always going to hit with a third hit, which is only 1/4 of the damage. This means that the Scythe is going to be more accurate in terms of small amounts of damage, making it more consistent. But you still are going to want to increase that accuracy to make sure that you hit the first hit, which is the majority of your DPS. I think this really gives the Scythe the extra power that it needs to match up to the Twisted Bow and to the Shadow. Obviously, it would still keep its niche of mainly being good against 3x3 monsters, with some niche uses against 2x2 monsters, but it would reduce the restriction to only use it on monsters with low defense. In fact, I think this would make the Scythe almost completely perfect, although there are some concerns with charges that we'll get to a bit later. Finally, we get to the Soulreaper Axe. The Soulreaper Axe is a weapon that's currently quite underwhelming, considering it comes from 4 different pieces assembled from 4 different bosses, and it's an endgame slash weapon meant to compete with, of course, the Scythe and the Fang. Now, the Soulreaper axe has a unique effect which boosts DPS the more stacks you have, but it's a bit complicated because the stacks increase damage, but they don't necessarily increase accuracy. And at the same time, the stacks take damage from you, and then you can use the spec to gain some health back, and it's overall very complicated, although I have to say that in my short time testing it, I did really enjoy it. One thing I think could make the Soulreaper axe a little better and more fitting to the game is to lean into the Soulreaper aspect. Basically, I think, as well as increasing the accuracy at max stacks, which I think is something that should happen anyway, they should consider adding a boost when you get a kill with the weapon. Now, obviously, this would mostly affect Slayer, but I think you could also extend it to PVM if you have some kind of bonus, such as, the stacks don't go away after you get a kill. But also, I think if you get a kill, it should add an invisible 6th stack for the next hit. Basically, the next hit would do an additional 8% accuracy and damage if the accuracy comes in, and it would heal you an 8, but still leave you at max stacks. I think that would be an interesting way for it to balance out both in PVM and in Slayer. By doing these 3 adjustments to these 3 melee weapons, you more effectively carve out niches for each of them that are separate. The Fang being the mid-level weapon that can punch through defenses of most mid-level monsters. That is, anything that doesn't have an extremely high resistance to stab. The Soulreaper axe becomes a weapon that gets better the more kills you're getting per hour, because every time you get a kill, you get an extra, more powerful hit. This makes it really good for Slayer and also for bosses that you get a lot of kills per hour. And finally, the Scythe gets a little extra accuracy so that its power more closely matches the Twisted Bow and the Tumakin's Shadow without totally changing up the meta. In this way, all 3 weapons have their own unique niche, and I think the melee system would be a lot better balanced for it. Now, these are just my ideas, so if you have any ideas about what kind of combat rebalances Jagex might be able to put into the game soon, please leave them in the comments. If Jagex actually wants to rebalance melee, I think this is a great way to do it and still keep all 3 of these weapons quite useful. After all, Theater of Blood and Desert Treasure 2 bosses and Tombs of Amascut are some of the most interesting, engaging, and rewarding content that are in the game, and we definitely want all 3 of these weapons to be worth getting for the people who do that content. If you like this video, leave a like, leave a comment, and consider subscribing to the channel. I'm still learning to edit with my new computer, but I'm having a lot of fun, and this is the 2nd video that I've done since I've gotten that. That's all for this time, though. Just a couple ideas that I thought would be cool, and hope you like them. So until next time, peace.